Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Please Be Happy. Um, yeah, we are on like episode 12 now, I think. 12, 13? Hmm,
Oh yeah, that's what happened.
I've been knocking these bad boys out. Am I not even 50% way, like 50% of the way through this game? Insane. The first guests of the day are the school kids from the last Friday. They enter one at a time, not struggling with the door this time. The girl I talked to before, Cello, comes over to the desk.
Good morning, Ms. Miho. Morning. How'd your project go? We're still working on it.
Some of us are. Some of us just want to wander around.
It's not wandering if you have a destination.
Around isn't a destination.
They remind me of Lena and Aspen. Whoa, hell no. That doesn't. No. I disagree heavily. Because that boy gives me Sasuke vibes. Cello sighs and rubs her face. She must have to put up with this a lot.
Well, that's why I wanted to come ask for Ms. Miho's advice again. Again?
Yeah, have you met her before?
What? She helped us just a couple days ago.
Actually, yeah, why does Cello remember? Pippa and Armand look at each other, confused. Even with her back to me, I can tell Cello is too. I've gotten so used to my friends remembering me that I didn't even think of how weird it was for Cello to remember. As strange as it is, it just feels like another mystery instead of a life-changing event. Another question that I can't answer. In other words, not worth dwelling on. Excuse me, Mio? I just shrug at Cello and smile, the same way I've seen Aspen do sometimes.
It's fine. It's just a thing that happens.
The young mermaid doesn't look totally convinced, but she nods all the same. I've also seen Aspen do that plenty of times too.
Well, if it's fine with you, I had another question to ask. Ask away! Last time, you told me about your favorite place. Are there any other spots in Wellington that you like?
Do I get to select again? She looks back at her friends, who are both distracted by some of the library's decorations.
We're having trouble settling on a topic. Oh, I know!
The girl, Pippa, hurries over to the desk. I didn't even think she was listening.
Do you think you could show us around town? Pippa?
That's a lot to ask, don't you think?
Now all three of them are at my desk.
She can say no. She's working. She can't just get up and leave. Actually...
There still aren't any other patrons yet. I don't think Juliet would mind, as long as I come back.
I can't spend all day, but I can show you a couple places.
Really? Are you sure?
Yep.
All three of them look at each other, then grin in unison. The first place I take them is the top of Mount Victoria.
This was one of the first places I went to when I came to Wellington. It's so beautiful.
Cello and Armand both stand at the railing, looking out at the city the same way I first did. I wonder if they're feeling any of the same things I did. Pippa's right behind them, with a notebook in one hand and a pencil in the other. At first, I think she's writing, like Aspen would be, but when I walk a bit closer, I see that she's drawing instead. In a few quick strokes, she sketches out the shape of the railing and the slope of the mountain, a few scribbled boxes turning into buildings and houses.
Ooh, you're really good.
Pippa's head jerks up, surprised.
Thanks!
Despite saying that, her face turns red and she snaps the book shut.
Oh, look at this!
Both Pippa and I turn to see Armand and Cello standing by the binoculars. Cello puts her eyes to them and then pulls back, frowning.
I can't see anything. Oh, here.
I fish around in my pockets until I find a couple of coins and hand them to Armand.
Thanks.
He feeds them into the machine, and Cello's able to look around.
Whoa.
He pans slowly from side to side before letting Armand have a turn. He looks all over, bouncing the lens up and down.
Pippa, do you want to try?
For a second, she considers it, but then Pippa shakes her head.
It's fine. Let's see something else.
Next, we walk down to the waterfront, where the market is. The sea is as blue as I've ever seen it.
Oh, it would be nice to go for a swim.
Maybe for some of us.
Is there an ocean near where you guys are from?
Oh no, but there's a giant lake and tons of canals. Cello spends basically all of her time in them.
I'd rather take a boat than an airship when possible, even if it's slower.
You would have swam all the way here if you could.
So, there's just something about being on your own with the ocean, when you feel like you belong. What if we did our project about this beach?
I definitely don't belong in the ocean. Can we pick something else?
I'm with Armand on this one. It's the same as any other ocean.
You guys just can't see it, I guess.
Although she looks a little disappointed, Cello keeps going with a shrug and a smile. We take my usual path and end up back at Cuba Street. Like always, it's alive with all sorts of people doing all sorts of things. As we're walking, Armand suddenly stops dead in his tracks and points.
Are those movie cameras? Are they filming something?
Without waiting for an answer, he runs off towards a corner of the street that's fenced off.
Huh. That fence wasn't here before.
Armand comes to a stop against the fence and wraps his fingers around one of the links. Sure enough, there's a whole crew of people operating cameras and other gear.
Whoa! They really are making a movie.
What do you think it'll be about?
A few people sitting on a bench across from the street are dressed in costumes, although it looks like they're taking a break. One of them carries a big staff, and another one is messing with a necklace that he's wearing. Most of them have swords at their sides.
Some kind of documentary, maybe? Maybe.
A burly man with a short mustache notices us and stomps in our direction.
Hey, you kids, scram! Get out of here!
But we were just...
Yeah, I don't care what you were just doing. Move it!
Disappointed, all four of us head back to a more crowded part of the street. I glance over my shoulder to see if the guy who yelled at us is still watching. He is, and he makes a grumpy gesture at me, and I turn back around. Sometimes, I remember why I used to not like humans.
What a jerk.
Yeah, sorry, Armand.
Oh, it's okay. I got to see a little bit at least.
His voice comes out all kinds of shaky. Like, maybe it isn't okay. But I don't think he'd want us to point that out. I might know a better way to cheer them all up.
Okay, one more stop.
The familiar ring of the bell house doors greets us as we walk in. I hold the door for the three kids, who all trail in.
Hello, and welcome to... Miho?
Welcome to the rest of them, too.
Oh, yes, of course. Welcome to the Bell House.
Pippa looks from Aspen to me, and then back.
Are you two dating?
Jesus Christ, is it that obvious? Do they exude lesbian energy? Damn!
Huh? How could you tell?
Pippa shrugs.
Just can.
Damn.
Well, yes, we are. That's why I was rather surprised to see my girlfriend. You must be the students here from out of town, right?
Yes, that's right.
You already knew about us?
I heard a bit from Miho. Anyway, it's nice to meet you. What would you like to drink? It'll be on the house.
That means it's free.
Thanks, Miho. I appreciate that. Pippa gives me a strange look.
I know what it means.
Aspen bites her lip to keep from laughing, but I can see it in her eyes. I smile too. The three kids place their orders, then go sit down while I stay at the counter.
Babysitter for a day?
They wanted me to show them around town a little bit. I need to get back to the library soon, though.
A guided tour of Wellington from Miho? Huh, how can I sign up?
Just ask. Although, your boss might not be as happy about you skipping work as mine.
True. Maybe I should take that store position after all, so I can make my own hours.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about that. Are you still thinking about whether or not to do it?
Yes, it's practically all I can think about when I'm here. I have to give Regina an answer by next month, though. I'll talk to you about it later, though. What would you like to drink?
Surprise me?
All right. I'll be back in a bit.
Okay, see you soon.
While she goes into the back, I sit down at a table in the corner with 3 students. The cafe is fairly busy, with many of the tables populated by humans and fabled alike. Our area is relatively empty, though. Pippa has her notebook in her lap and looks to be drawing again, although she angles the book so no one can see it.
Thanks for taking us around today, Miss Miho.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sure we should be able to settle on a topic after this, right?
Armand nods under Cello's withering glare.
Right.
Pippa, on the other hand, doesn't seem to notice. She's fully absorbed in whatever she's working on.
Pippa? Did you have any ideas?
No response. Sighing, Cello just rests her head on the table instead of trying to get Pippa's attention again.
I still think we should just make it about the ocean.
Pippa's kind of right, though. It's hard to make the ocean seem special. What about the movie crew? Just without that guy at the end.
But would that really be showing Wellington itself?
Maybe not.
For a moment, everything is silent in our corner, other than the scratch of Pippa's pencil. Then she smacks that down onto the table and turns her notebook around for all of us to see.
Look!
Even as a sketch, it's easy to identify the bell house. There are a few changes, like the plants and decorations, but it's still unmistakable. She's drawn it from the outside, with an overhead view right beside it. In there are tables populated by people that I hope aren't supposed to be us.
Wow, Pippa!
May I see it?
Pippa reluctantly hands the notebook to Cello, who holds it so I can see better too. The bell house isn't the only thing she's drew. Part of the streets outside is shown, including some sketches of statues and storefronts that we walk past. Across from her, Pippa waits anxiously.
I thought that a coffee shop might show it best. How all the different kinds of people exist here. It's a place that everyone loves, no matter where you came from. At least, that's what I was thinking.
I think that's beautiful.
Aspen's shoes click against the floor as she approaches us, with a tray balanced on her hand. Stopping at her table, she picks up the first of 3 drinks and hands it to Pippa.
Sorry, I couldn't help but overhear. But I often think of the Bell House the same way. It's something I love about this place. In fact, I first met Miho here.
Pippa's eyes go wide.
Destiny?
I've wondered the same.
Cello sets the notebook down on the table before taking a sip of her drink. Her eyes light up when she does.
Whoa, this is really good!
Armand nods vigorously in agreement.
I'm so glad you like them. Miho, I forgot your drink at the bar. Would you like to come get it?
Oh, sure.
Behind me, I'm pretty sure all 3 of the kids snicker amusedly. At the counter, Aspen hands me a steaming cup. I breathe in the scent and try to identify it, but I can't.
What's in it?
A surprise, remember? Tell me what you think.
I take a small sip, being careful not to burn my mouth. At once, a variety of flavors meld together. There's chocolate for sure, but not overly sweet chocolate. And there's also coffee, but it's not too bitter. On top of that, there's another taste, one that I can't recognize. One that I recognize but can't place.
I love it!
Phew, I was afraid I may have used too much chocolate.
Nah, everything was perfect. But what's in it besides coffee and cocoa?
Not cocoa, real melted dark chocolate. We usually only put shaving on drinks, but this was a special one. The other flavor is lavender. Sometimes people don't like the flowery taste, but I thought you might enjoy it.
You can eat lavender? A fun fact for you guys, did you know that lavender is also an aphrodisiac? I'll leave that information for you to do with as you please.
Definitely. What's it called? I'll order it again for sure.
It doesn't have a name yet, actually. I'll try to think of one. In the meantime, I'll write down the recipe so I don't forget.
I take another sip, as good as the first.
May I try it?
Of course.
I pass the cup to Aspen, who stares at it for a moment just before she who stares at it for just a moment before pressing it to her lips.
Wow, that is perfect. If I do say so myself.
She takes another sip.
Hey, don't drink it all.
Chuckling, Aspen returns the beverage.
Sorry. I'll make my own on my break.
Is that soon?
Unfortunately not. In fact, I should get back to work before too long. If Lena catches me, I'll never hear the end of it. Literally.
Alright. I won't keep distracting you then. I should get back to the library. Although...
I look back at the kids, who are all hovering over Pippa's notebook as she sketches more.
It's fine, they can stay here. I don't think there'll be any trouble, and I'm sure it'll be easier for them to get back to their class.
You sure? Thanks.
Of course. Talk to you later?
Of course.
Oh, gotta spend some time out on my own. Let's see. You know what? Let's visit the bay. That'll be fun. I'm just enjoying a nice walk on the beach when an intrusive thought makes itself known. Wow, for real. Sand. How far does it go? Like, beaches always have a definitive cutoff where the sand stops and turns into dirt and streets. But what about down? How far down can you dig and still get sand? Or is it just dirt after a certain point? Wait, let's think about this logically. Sand must be a product of the ocean in some way, since it's always right next to the ocean. So sand probably goes down as far as the ocean goes. Huh? But then where did deserts come from? Ugh. I think it's better if I don't think about this anymore. That night, as I'm laying in bed watching TV, my phone buzzes in the windowsill, startling me. It's Aspen.
Hello?
Miho, I didn't wake you, did I?
Nah, I was still up. But I thought you went to bed hours ago. Is everything okay?
I did, yes, and I'm fine. I woke up to get some water and saw that I had an email. And after I read it, I couldn't wait to tell you. Are you ready?
Sure.
She clears her throat and gulps down some water before she starts.
Dear Ms. Benoit, we've read your draft and we're very impressed with what we've seen so far. At the moment, it's a couple steps away from being what we're looking for, but we'd like to fix that. One of our representatives will be in the Wellington area this Friday. Would you be available for dinner to discuss more? Best regards, Avery Frost, editor.
I bolt upright in bed, as if Aspen were here telling me in person.
Whoa! So they're gonna do it? They're gonna publish your book?
Well, it sounds like there are still some details to be worked out, but...
Congratulations!
It's a good thing Julia doesn't sleep during the night. I can hear her laugh through the phone, and can't keep a grin off my own face.
Thank you. Thank you. Wait a moment, I'm not dreaming, am I?
Nope.
Good. Lately I keep thinking that my life has been going far too well, and surely I'll have to wake up soon and find that none of it was real.
That's a real fear there, Aspen.
No way. Although, it sounds like maybe you should go back to bed.
Probably. I'm not sure I'll be able to fall asleep again, though.
Wanna come over? Juliet's awake too.
She laughs again.
Tempting, but I shouldn't. Tomorrow, though, after I get off work.
We're gonna celebrate?
Damn right we are. Let's go somewhere, just the two of us.
Sure. Like where?
Dunno. Figure it out when we get there.
Of course. See you at breakfast then?
Mm-hmm.
Aspen yawns, causing me to yawn too.
All right, I get the message. Good night, Miho. I love you.
I love you too. Good night.
You know what? They do exude extreme lesbian energy. So, yeah, I guess it's not that impressive that Pippa figured it out. Maybe. Settling back down into my bed, I can't keep a smile off my face, even as my eyes get heavier. If anyone deserves some good news, it's Aspen. I'm so glad she can stop worrying so much now. Whoa, more free time, eh? Well, I don't want to give her a mental breakdown by visiting the beach again, so, let's go visit the park. The park is breezy today. Trees rustle and dance at the whims of the wind, and my hair whips around as well. Maybe for other people, this would look picturesque, but it just keeps blowing hair into my mouth. I do my best to discreetly spit my own hair out without anyone noticing me, but the wind just seems to blow it right back at me, seemingly almost insistent and malicious in intent. Unless I want to look even more silly, maybe I'd sit next to a building for a while to let the wind die down. The wide open field of the park is working against me today. Just put your hair back, girl. Tie it up in a ponytail.
It's even more gorgeous than I remember.
The grand entrance of the Botanic Garden is pretty impressive, decorated with flowers and trees and more. It's even closer to the wilds I remember than Mount Victoria's forests are.
Of course, last time I was rather distracted by the circumstances.
Is that why you want to come back?
Yes, this time. I intend to enjoy it to its fullest.
After meeting up with Aspen at the Bell House, we took a bus to get here. It dropped us off at the same gate that Juliet and I arrived at last time. Hand in hand like always, we drift like bumblebees from flower patch to flower patch. Aspen stops to admire the plants, and I admire Aspen. Getting that email really seems to have cheered her up. There's a bounce in every step we take together.
What kind of flowers are those?
I have no idea. They're pretty though, aren't they?
They sure are.
Like a flower, when I saw Aspen for the first time all those months ago, I thought she was pretty. But the colorful petals at her feet can't actually compare to her. That rainy day in the library, she didn't even know I was there. I never could have imagined how our lives would intertwine from then on. But it's everything we've been through since then. All the things I've come to learn and know about her that make her beautiful. We've both talked about that day and everything after, a lot. Still, I don't get tired of thinking or hearing about it. Every day just makes me appreciate her more. Turning away from the flowers, Aspen sees me looking at her and tilts her head.
What are you smiling about all of a sudden?
You!
Earning myself a kiss on the cheek, we resume our journey through the gardens. The winding roads takes us past more flowers, through forests and across ponds. Everywhere you look, there's something new to see. For the most part, I let Aspen lead us, content to see whatever she wants to see, even when that means standing around for a couple minutes while she reads the tiny words on big signs. The sun begins to set, our walk getting gradually darker, but neither of us are in a rush to leave. When we round another corner, we reach a new area of the park that we haven't seen before. A small river runs alongside the path, and on one side is a large embankment. Trees with long, saggy branches run along the top. Why was that so difficult? Making a curtain along it. Some of the branches glisten with water, but some sparkle with something else. I point to one, getting Aspen's attention.
Hey, what's that?
What's what?
She follows my line of sight, and her eyes light up when she sees it.
Oh!
We both hurry over to where something small and blue hangs from one of the branches, glowing like a firefly. There are silky threads hanging from the trees, too. They look kind of like spider webs, but softer.
Is it a fairy?
Not quite. They're glowworms.
She reaches a hand up, cupping the bright orb without touching it.
Oh, worms?
Yes. Look.
I look. Sure enough, there's a bug attached to the light. Maybe, well, maybe it's the other way around.
It's almost as pretty as the flowers. Are they magical?
No, just unique. Wellington is somewhat famous for them, in fact. There should be more nearby. Shall we look for them?
Sure. Let's go.
We follow the embankment, peering among the trees and dirt for another glimpse of light. There are other people around inspecting the same area we are. We spot a couple isolated bugs, all alone like the first one we encountered, but for a while that seemed to be it. However, as the night begins to set in and the sun disappears behind the hills, that starts to change. Before our eyes, lights gradually appear as more and more glowworms take their places, like candles being lit in the dark. The blue-green webbing almost seems to hover in midair at parts, since we can't see the trees themselves as easily. Finally, we come to a part of the ridge that brings us both to a halt. A big willow tree droops down, making a web of its own out of the branches that even reach past nearby trees. Glowworms hang from them like holiday lights. There are more here than we saw on the way combined. When we first arrived at the gardens, Aspen remarked on how gorgeous it was. Now, she's speechless. She takes a step forward, and then another, drawn like a moth to a flame. I stay at her side, impressed by the glowworms, but unable to take my eyes off Aspen again. Her eyes wide and her mouth agape, she's the most easy-to-read person I've ever met. A simple way, she always wears her awe on her face and her heart on her sleeve, even when she tries to hide her feelings. To me, that's another thing to love about her. I've already seen it happen a few times. Aspen, who always tries to have the perfect words, finds herself at a loss for them so often. Everything she feels so much. As scary as that may have seemed at one time, as we became friends, and then more than friends, it's something I've come to admire. She says that meeting me was destiny, or that maybe she just got lucky. I don't know a thing about destiny, but I know that the second part is wrong, or at least only half true. I'm the lucky one here.
Hey, Aspen?
Still entranced, she turns her head to face me, and I lean forward to kiss her. I'm used to not having the right words, or any words at all, but I hope I can say everything I want to with a kiss. Her eyes flutter shut behind her glasses. She smells faintly of coffee and flour. Her lips taste like love. I hope she knows just how much she's made my life better, just by existing, just by being her. We part, but just barely. Foreheads together, she smiles, the light in her eyes brighter than the one around us.
What was that for? Not that I mind, of course.
Just because. I was thinking about how lucky I am to be able to do that.
I see. In that case...
She kisses me again.
Just because?
Because I love you. And so you'll keep doing that?
That's the easiest promise I've ever made.
Eventually, we walk away, letting some of the other searchers enjoy that spot. We follow the winding path through the garden some more, taking our time and stopping to admire everything that catches our eyes. There are plenty of those. Not just flowers and trees, but the lamp-lit pathways and streams too. At the end, we leave the gate we entered through, taking a shuttle back into town. I walk with Aspen to our apartment before we part ways for the night. Holding my hands outside her door, she gives me one last kiss.
Thank you for a perfect evening, Miho.
It was your idea to go there. So, thank you.
It was only perfect because we were together, though. Just take the compliment, silly.
Fine, fine.
Smiling, Aspen steps forward and hugs me, enveloping me in that coffee and flower scent.
Well, shall I see you tomorrow then?
Yeah. I already can't wait.
Me either. Good night, Miho.
Good night.
With a final wave, Aspen disappears into her apartment. I make my way back to the library, feeling lighter than air. Ooh. An event at home, eh? Hey. I've only been home for a little bit when I decide to step out into the night again. My last encounter with Silver didn't go so well, but it hasn't made me any less determined to talk to her. It's not just because of my magic, and what she might be able to tell me about it, but it's also because I want to help her. I know that I can't tell her that outright, but with every passing day that I spend with Aspen, or with Juliet, it makes me more confident in my decision to stay around Wellington. While I don't expect things to go exactly the same way for Silver as they did for me, I hope that maybe someday she'll want to change too. Making my way to Mount Victoria doesn't take very long. Just like last time, I change forms and search for Silver's scent, locking on and following it through the forest. I eventually find her in her two-legged form, sitting on a log with her back to me. For some reason, I'm surprised. I just assumed she spent most of her time as a fox. I change forms myself. Somehow, I don't think she's noticed me yet. I'm not sure if I should call her out to get her attention or what. I don't think she'd like being surprised, but there probably isn't any chance she'd be excited to see me regardless. Taking a step, I have my decision made for me. The snap of a branch under my foot gives me away.
Damn it.
Sure enough, Silver spins around, her eyes going from shock to annoyance when she sees me. She leaps to her feet in a fluid motion, while I hold up my empty hands to show that I'm not a threat.
Stupid dog. Learn to obey when you're given a command. I told you not to come back here.
Oops. Guess I must not have heard that part.
I didn't bother to make a plan for how to convince her to talk to me, since she already has a tendency to mess up any plans I try. She snorts in derision. Derision? How do I pronounce that? hold up.
Derision.
Yeah, derision. Okay. And transforms as she turns back away from me. In a flash, she's taken off.
Not this time.
I change forms and run after her. She's tricky, not just fast, she also darts back and forth, weaving around the trees as she tries to get away. I don't let her. Instead keeping her in my sights, even though she manages to stay ahead. The forested area isn't very big, but she backtracks so much that it feels huge. If we were in our other form, I'm sure she'd be shouting taunts at me, or obscenities. Instead, it's gravely silent, other than the soft sound of our paws on the leaves and moss. Man, I'm having trouble reading tonight too. I need like a nap before I start doing these. Silver eventually gives up on trying to confuse me, and instead puts on a burst of speed, pulling farther and farther away from me. Why is she so determined to run away? And why am I so determined to catch her? The first part isn't tough to answer, because running away is easy. I understand because until recently, that's what exactly I would have done too. But the second part? That's harder to say. I push myself as well, trying to run faster like Silver. It's hard though, and my legs are already aching. I have to start relying on my ears and nose, and not just my eyes to track her. Suddenly I see her again, not that far out of reach. She looks back and spots me, and I can see her trying to dash again. Only this time, she doesn't seem to be able to pull it off either. That's when I notice her limp. It's subtle, enough that I can only tell when I'm closer up to her like this. But one of her back legs is definitely giving her trouble, and is starting to slow her down. When it becomes clear I'm going to catch her, she abruptly halts, transforming back into Flash. I scramble to bring myself to a stop and then change too, almost collapsing backwards onto the ground. My lungs feel like they're on fire, but I stay on my feet. Silver doesn't move, her back still to me, even as I see her chest heave while she catches her breath. She clenches a fist, illuminated by the light from her bead.
Why? Why won't you leave me alone? I've told you to stay away. Aren't dogs supposed to be good at listening?
I ignore her. I couldn't give her an answer she'd accept anyway.
Why are you limping? Did you hurt your leg?
Silence. Not that I was expecting an answer myself. But then slowly, her fingers uncurl.
No, someone else did. Why do you care?
For the first time, there's less of a sharp edge to her words. For once, it sounds like a genuine question.
Because you exist, I guess. I've never met another Gumiho, but I feel like I know you. At least a little bit. We probably have more in common than you think. Or admit.
Pathetic.
I don't know if she's talking about me or not. Finally, she looks up and glares at me, staring right into my eyes. I'm not sure how I want to come across to her. Friendly? Trustworthy? Brave? Whatever we do have in common, she's also a total mystery. Even at my most antisocial, I was never as wild as she is.
Fine then, I'll tell you. Listen well, dog. I won't repeat myself.
Holding her arms, Silver turns her back on me and looks up at the stars.
The forest I called home belonged to man, as all forests do in their minds. Every day, to live was to be in fear of their cruel weapons that could tear you apart before you ever saw them. All creatures of the forest are prey to sate man's hunger for violence. I learned to run, for there was no other choice but death. To hide from their stinking horses and craven hounds. Survive. Yet, For all my running and for all my fear, one day, I too found myself fleeing for my life, slabbering beasts at my heels. There was a crack as one of their weapons rang out, finding its mark in my leg. Despite the pain, I kept running for as long as I could before collapsing into the bush. I knew I was going to die, and there was nothing I could do about it. Nothing but quiver and dread, useless and pathetic. I thought I would choke on the fear. Instead, as the first of the hunters arrived, sadistic pleasure in their eyes, the pain in my throat became something else. In that moment, it transformed me. I was more than a pitiful fox. I became something greater, something powerful. In a flash, the fear came for them instead. They screamed the same way we foxes do, in agony and terror. The pain I felt was nothing compared to the euphoria of strength. It served me greater than fear had. And it was not only my blood that nurtured the forest that day. I knew that my wounds would heal in time, but that power would never leave me. They did, and it hasn't. Never again will I suffer a human to harm me, or anyone else.
Spinning back around, her eyes shined in the moonlight.
Never again. I told you before that we are nothing alike.
She's wrong. I can see myself reflected in her harsh gaze. I could have been her so easily.
Well, what is it, dog? Have you finally learned to hold your tongue?
Something about her finally clicks. Something in her words makes sense. The way she tells me so much, even as she tells me to leave. The way she keeps asking for my thoughts. She desperately wants me to respond.
I'm sorry. All of that stuff that happened to you is terrible. I can see why you hate humans so much.
Her eyes widen, then instantly narrow.
Oh, has a thought dared to enter that empty head of yours?
Yeah, I'd probably hate humans too if I'd gone through what you did. Even though I didn't, I still spent most of my life trying to avoid them, and everyone else. Everyone but one person.
I pause, waiting for her to interrupt me, but she doesn't. That's the nicest thing Silver's ever done for me.
I also got my leg hurt by humans back then. Back when I was a fox, I stepped on one of their traps and couldn't get out. I also thought I was gonna die. But instead, my person set me free. Even though they weren't my person yet. And they put a bandage on my leg and helped it get better. I'd probably still have a limp today if they hadn't.
Silver scoffs, but doesn't interject.
Until I came here and met Aspen and Juliet, I thought my person was the only one worth knowing, human or not. I didn't want them to talk to me either. But now, I'm glad they did.
I search her face, trying to get a glimpse of what she might be thinking or feeling, but her expression is as stony as ever. I could keep going. I'm not sure it would be a good idea or not. I'm probably already wearing on her patience. Oh, come on! Oh. Dude. Dude, we're this far in. We keep going, right? We push that. Since she still hasn't cut me off, I decide to keep talking. Who knows when I'll have another chance.
You could try that too, you know. I could even introduce you to my friends. I haven't told them about you yet. They don't have any idea you exist, but I'm sure they'd be just as nice to you as they were to me. Not all people are bad, humans or fabled. There are good ones too. Just like there are probably good and bad Gumiho.
All I get in response is a cold stare. Well, it's not like I really expected her to say yes. At least I tried. From the way she fidgets, I can tell we're getting near the point where Silver is going to decide she's had enough and run away. Before she can do that, there's something I have to know.
Hey.
What?
I never asked before, but what's your name?
She sneers, looking glad to have a reason to be disdainful again.
I have no need for one. If I wished to be known by anyone, they wouldn't use a name.
Yeah, I used to be like that too. It's how I ended up calling myself Miho.
How clever.
Which is why I've been calling you Silver in my head, so I'll just keep doing that.
Pick something else.
Huh?
Her response is immediate and kind of funny. Oh my god. The voice acting on that one. I'd been expecting a do as you wish, or I don't care what a dog thinks of me, but I didn't expect her to have an opinion on my choice. Even Silver looks a bit surprised of herself, like she answered without thinking. She quickly forces back a stoic expression.
I mean, do as you wish.
There it is!
If you tell me something else to call you, I will.
I don't care what a dog thinks of me.
Nose in the air, she turns away from me and transforms, bounding off into the shadows like always. This time, I don't try to follow her. She always has to make a show of how little she cares. It took me until tonight to understand that she means she cares a lot. For as detached and disinterested as she tries to appear, there are still weaknesses in her armor. Once again, I didn't really learn much about myself or my magic from this visit with Silver, but still, I don't think it was a waste of time. At breakfast the next morning, I'm still thinking about Silver and her story, and about how much it has in common with mine. I only half listen as Julie and Aspen talk about the book they've both been reading. Instead, it's nice to just watch them enjoy being around each other. It's so easy to miss that when you're not looking for it. Of course, you can still miss out on other things. It takes me a moment to realize that Aspen is trying to get my attention.
Miho! Miho!
Shaking my head, I bring my attention back.
Earth to Miho! Anyone home?
There is now. Just stepped out for a minute, you know.
Believe me, I know. I was just asking if something had happened to your bead. It looks brighter again.
It does?
Oh man, that'd be embarrassing if Aspen noticed a change before I did. I tuck my necklace away from me so I can see it. Sure enough, the glow is stronger than before. Still, not as strong as Silver's though.
I swear it wasn't like that when I went to sleep.
Maybe it changed overnight. Like your body, perhaps it needs time to process.
Dude, how long has it been since we heard Julia talk? Oh no.
Actually, I believe I learned something useful in that regard. I was able to get in touch with one of the curators from the exhibition you saw at Topapa. I mentioned the painting of a Gumio and asked if he knew anything about them, and he told me a very interesting myth. It says that not only is Gumio's bead the source of her magic, but it also requires more magic to sustain itself. Most Fable take their magic from the underworld's source, but for those who don't come from the underworld, such as Miho,
It has to come from somewhere else.
Right.
We're all quiet for a moment, as we all come to what I'm sure is the same conclusion.
The memories.
Yes, I believe so. Every time someone forgets about you, I believe your bead retains that memory as a sort of power. There was a second part to the myth as well. Once it's accumulated enough, the Gumio can take that magic and make it her own, becoming something even more than a Gumio.
Something more? In what way?
A Chunho.
Both of them look at me.
Pardon?
Oh, I know the word, but not how I know it. As if Juliet's explanation unlocked a forgotten memory of my own.
That's what I'd be if I swallowed the bean when it was ready. Tunnel, a sky fox.
I don't know what it means, but I know it's the next step in my existence. More than a Gumio.
If you swallowed it. I suppose that makes sense, but it hardly sounds pleasant.
It isn't.
Removing my necklace, I inspect the bead yet again. The glow must be related to what Juliet was saying. That it's getting closer to being ready. I don't know if the rest of me is, though.
But why now? I don't think that many people have forgotten me recently, but it started changing so fast.
It's magic. Even as a boring old human, I can tell you that magic never works how you think it should.
Not just magic, but also myth. Myths tend to have some roots in truth, but are incomplete or warped by retelling. Trust your eyes and your heart, not just what Aspen and I find.
Right. Besides, who knows how much farther it has to go? It could keep getting brighter and brighter for a long time. I've seen... I'll see if it looks any different this time next week.
I was about to mention Silver, but managed to catch myself. I want to tell Aspen and Juliet about her, but not yet. Not until I know her better myself. Not until I can convince her to meet them. And it could take even longer for Silver to change than for my bead. Although now that I think about it, what does the brightness of hers mean? That her bead has stored even more magic than mine? Something about that doesn't feel right. It can't just be an amount. There has to be something more. I wonder if she even knows what it is. There's one more big question too. One more big what if.
If I do that, would it mean people stop forgetting about me? If my bead isn't there to steal the memories?
That would be very nice if so.
Indeed. I couldn't say, but I share Aspen's feelings, as I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, I do.
I locked the necklace back around my neck. The more I learn about my powers, the more conflicted I feel. I know Aspen and Juliet mean well, but it's just not something they can understand. Even though Juliet has magic of her own, it's entirely different from mine. The conversation changes to recent events at the library in Bell House, and none of us mention anything else about magic or Gumiho for the rest of the morning. Whatever's going to happen with my bead, I'll have to figure it out myself. Hey! Fish are dead. It's been almost a week since the last time I went to the waterfront. I decided to head down and visit Mr. Kim. It's been even longer since I've actually done any fishing, so this might be a good time to change that. When I get to the waterfront, there are plenty of other people there fishing, unlike the last couple of times, however, it doesn't seem like Mr. Kim is one of them. His assistant, Young Min, is there helping out like always, but Mr. Kim himself is nowhere to be seen. When I go ask Young Min, he tells me that Mr. Kim went to the marketplace, but that he should be back by now. I volunteered to go see if I can track him down. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. I've only ever seen the market from a distance, but for up close, it's a lot more lively than I gave it credit for. The noisy fishermen that I always hear from far away laugh and shout with each other, displaying their catches on beds of ice. There are other vendors and stalls selling snacks and drinks, as well as things like jewelry and souvenirs. I walk around, searching for Mr. Kim, and finally find him near the edge of the pier. He's looking intently at a number of fishing poles for sale, one hand stroking his chin.
Hello, hello, mijo! Fancy seeing you here.
Youngmin told me where you were. I was surprised you weren't at the fishing spot.
Oopsie, I might be taking a little longer than I said I would, but I just can't decide.
I go over and inspect the fishing poles too. Most of them are fancier than ones I've used, with extra pieces and parts. I don't really know what any of them do, though.
Are you getting a new rod?
If I can settle on one, yes, I've narrowed it down to this one.
He points at one of the complicated, fancy-looking poles.
And this one.
The other option is a simpler, sleeker design.
What's the difference?
The first one here has everything you could ever want. It's made for comfort and for power. The other one I'm looking at is more basic, as you can see.
That sounds pretty easy. Why wouldn't you get the nicer one?
I guess there's just something about a simple, traditional design that appeals to an old geezer like me. It's hard to say no to the luxury of the other one, but...
Get the simpler one, my dude. I can't imagine you need a very complicated rod to go fishing. He frowns, still thinking deeply.
Sounds like you've already decided then.
Oh?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you want the basic one, even though the other one is nicer.
Exactly. Slowly, he nods.
You might just be right. I'll take this one.
The person running the booth packages up the rod and hands it to Mr. Kim once he finishes paying. Then the two of us start heading back to the fishing spot.
You know, you picked a good time to show up.
Why's that?
I'll show you once the lessons are over.
That turns out to be shortly after we get there. Mr. Kim goes to apologize to Young Min for taking so long, and I watch some of the other people fishing while we wait, since all his spare rods are taken. Once almost everyone else leaves at the end of the hour, Mr. Kim beckons me over.
How's the new rod?
Works like a dream so far. It's the old one I wanted to talk to you about, though.
Mr. Kim holds his old fishing pole in one hand, examining it with a small smile. I can see a wistful look in his eyes, like he's recalling old memories. Then he holds it out to me.
Here. I want you to have it.
Oh my god, this is happening a little too fast here. Oof. Oh. Your old fishing rod. How could I possibly take that?
Me? Why?
Better it go to someone who'll use it than just sit around collecting dust in the garage. Besides, you're going to need something reliable if you're gonna have a chance with the king!
I carefully take the rod, holding it gently like it could fall apart. It's got nicks and grooves on it, and the grip is worn down in places, signs of how loved and appreciated it was.
Are you sure?
Of course I'm sure, as long as you promise to give it a good home.
I do. Thanks.
You're welcome. Now, let's make sure we catch the king this year,
Standing at the edge, I cast out my line to get a feel for the rod. Even though it's been well used, it's more comfortable and handles better than the ones I usually borrow. I managed to land a couple of fish, although I let them all go. When it's finally time for me to go home, I carry the fishing pole carefully, making sure Mr. Kim's trust in me wasn't misplaced. Oh, that was sweet. Ooh. I just quickly glanced through this. It looks like we're going to be talking about the book deal, eh? Well, y'all are going to have to wait until next time. as always. Thank you for watching.
Time to take a break.